All right, here he is.
I've learned, and I think it's really important for young creators coming up, they're going to throw you shows and they're going to say, go to do your own show. Take some time learning how to do a show. Take some time learning how the system works. Go right in a room for a few years. You will get your moment. And if you go and actually put in your 10,000 hours, when you get your moment, put in 7,500 of the 10,000 if you don't. When you get your moment, the moment will not be like we're saying. It'll be part of the movement. You know, but the idea is that I've seen so many people get opportunities and not ready for them. And you're like, what was that? What did you do? What happened? And it just comes and goes. So take your time.
You don't have to pitch. You kind of are just telling them, like, so this is what I'm doing next?
No, obviously, no. We definitely talk about it, but I'm not like developing things. I'm not going and doing pilots. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like hoping my pilot gets picked up. I'm not, writing tons of pitch docs and development things. Like it's conversations. It really is a situation where I'm a big elevator pitch fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't tell me your idea in 20 seconds, we probably should stop talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, I don't need, when you go pitch a show and people don't realize this, you basically have the show sold in the first 2 or 3 minutes of you talking. You're either convincing them how much more they want it or how much less they want you, how much quicker they want you to get out the room. People, your show should not, especially comedy, you know what I'm saying? Your show should not be so heady that I need to take a moment to go back and figure it out and look at the deck and all. It's just 90% of the time that's not how it works.
When you approach a season of Netflix, which I could watch in one night or 2 nights whenever I want, as opposed to a season of Blackish, which you are spooning out over, a couple of months, is that a different creative approach? Because I feel 100%. Like this season of Black F has a clear structure and a clear endpoint, and Blackish seems to just float along, right? Traditional sitcom, the moment ends, I could watch it out of order. Black AF, if I watched it out of order, I'd be a little lost.
From a season standpoint, Blackish is harder because you're creating, and network television, and that model's changed too, but in network television, you start to understand as a creator that you are creating what's called evergreen television.
Right.
Because you're creating it for a syndication model. And a syndication model in comedy, Friends still keeps the lights on at Warner Brothers because that's how Friends can play over. And once you watch a dramatics, a show that has, a through narrative, once you're done with it, it's hard to go back and just watch it again. You know what I'm saying? The Wire is my favorite show, but it's hard to go back and just watch if I know what's going to happen. In network television, you're creating evergreen television so that a person can theoretically sit down and watch any episode, anytime. Especially when you start in syndication, it might be on 5 or 6 different channels, and it plays just as well. Netflix is a harder model to me it's an easier model to me because I have a beginning, middle, and end of a season. You know what I'm saying? You have a thematic narrative that's the engine of your show, and you follow that engine. And so theoretically, I could sit and in a week, I could sort of plot out what the sort of thematic engine is, and then we could put the bones around it and then come up with the conversation. Blackish was a little bit harder of storytelling because you had to sort of say, okay, guys, we're finished that one. Everybody take a break and clear your mind. Let's think of a whole nother thing that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. And the only thing that we have is our characters. That's why in network television, and as opposed to this, you can soft pedal who the characters are because you have more time for people to get to know them. In this, I had to really quickly make sure that you pretty much understood who everyone was within an episode or two, because we didn't have a long time and we had an engine we had to get through. So I think they're totally different beasts.
I really, you just reminded me how much I loved the introduction of Izzy as pixelated, because she's like, fuck you, big sister. And then, and that sort of carried, like, the entrance of any character is really important as a way of understanding the character. And her entrance of like, fuck you, I'm not participating in your shit. Right. And then she maintains that like I'm laughing catch you on the plane because you lost your like that. That was
That is so my daughter, though. That's my daughter, Lola. We call her Stink. She is the coolest of all my kids by far.
How many kids you have?
6.
Okay.
6. 3. My oldest 3 are girls. My youngest 3 are boys. My youngest son might overtake her as the coolest in the house because he's something else. But my 14-year-old daughter is effortlessly, like, she's in junior high. She goes to school called Sierra Canyon. All the high school kids are like, "Hey, Lola." I'm like, "How do you know them? How do you know this person? How do you know?" Like, all the high school kids know her. She's very, very. She doesn't try. She does. She's not. She's very much so who she is. She's. I don't know where it came from. I've never met a kid more comfortable in their skin.
And then your younger kids are dorks, and you're like, you guys are idiots.
my 2 sons. I mean, that's how it is, though, as boys. You know what I'm saying? You remember looking around, the girls were always like,
yeah.
they were like, why would they fool with us? We're not. You know what I'm saying? And then every now and then there was like a cool guy. And you're like, this kid, like, he was the guy who was the leader because there was one kid who figured it out before all the rest. When you're young as a boy, like, you're still figuring it takes you a while. You know what I'm saying, to catch up. And I tell my daughter now, her brother's a year and a half, sometimes they're only a year apart. I'm like, you're going to need him very soon. You know what I'm saying? I was like, he's going to be tall and he's going to be handsome and he's going to be cool. And she doesn't see it now, but we catch up. You know what I'm saying? We catch up. But, my sons very much so remind me of myself, and they, are figuring it out for themselves, and each of them have their own path. But it's, those kids, I should write them a check every week because I steal everything from them. Everything I do.
Is there stuff that they say that ends up on the show, or is it like the sense of them goes into these characters?
It's a sense of them, but there are moments, in this show, I bought donuts for the class, and those kids didn't even tell me happy birthday. That actually happened. And my son laughed, and he was like, I didn't realize I took it that hard, but I guess I did. But, like, that actually happened.
When that title card, he's the moist towelette of the family. That destroyed me, that destroyed my daughter, that destroyed my son. We were like, that was so funny.
I mean, we give my son Pops a hard time because I call him the sweetest kid on the block because he's just the sweetest, softest, and a soft, not in a pejorative way, just like, gooey, kid. And, he's the kid, like, everyone will get ice cream and everyone will eat their ice cream cones. And, and he'll take slow lick after slow lick, and everyone else will finish theirs, and they'll say, "Can I have some of yours?" And he'll be like, "Sure." I'm like, "No, they get out, they ate theirs." And he's just a very genuinely internally nice kid, and I think that he's an artist, and I see it, and he takes the world very hard. So I love that about him.
There's Pops, there's Stink. How many of your actual names or nicknames did you put on the show?
I tried to put all of them in there. Of the nickname, no one's actually Pops, and we call him Pops, so you actually don't know his name on the show.
Right.
We call my son Pops. His real name is Bo. And there's Cass, who's his brother, and there's Bronx, who's the baby, and Kaylee.
Right. You named him Brooklyn. Right.
Her name is Brooklyn. So Kaylee, her nickname is Barry, and I call her Barry on the show.
Yeah.
Leia is Parpar, and I call her because her middle name is Pilar. She's Tyra's her godmother. And Lola is Stink, and we call her Stink, and we call her Izzy Stink. So I mean, in some aspects, this was definitely a love letter to my family.
Oh, is Marquise gay?
No. I think that
you played with that so hard. I was waiting for a moment to be like, he is gay.
No, I think that the nature, we didn't talk about it, but the nature of just kids in general right now, in a way that I think, sometimes I'm a dinosaur, the gender fluidity of kids, when I look at, things that the way that they look at that. And I'm really proud of them because I am, I still struggle with my shit because I came up in an age where things were beyond not open, but I look at Tyler, I consider Tyler a friend, and Jaden, and these kids. I feel like the way that they have sort of taken our old idioms and destroyed them, and decided this is what they're not gonna hold our baggage with them. So that's the nature of he is not afraid of loving his bros. You know, no, he's not. He's not. The character is not bi, but he is not afraid of leaning into the idea of like, these are my bros. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that is something that youth culture has done, and that they should really be applauded for.
That was definitely a point. My wife was like, "Oh, he's gay." I'm like, "Well, the show doesn't actually take a position of whether he is or not." But my daughter loved the whole moment of like, you know, on the island when he's like, "Marquise, he's all right. He's all right." And then a moment, "Fuck Marquise." And the way the music cuts there, like he's saving Joya, and they're like, "Fuck that guy." Like, what the fuck? Yo, how do you get the polarization that you enjoyed out of this show into your next thing, be it season 2 or whatever you do next for Netflix?
Well, I think it has to be organic. It can't just be just something to do it to be controversial, because then it comes off saccharine and whack. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the polarization will come, I'm finding, more if you're just authentic and honest. You know what I'm saying? Honesty is really polarizing. You know what I'm saying? Honesty is really polarizing. And I feel like that is something that I am unfortunately dealing with in a lot of aspects of my life. You know what I'm saying? But the idea of sort of saying what's on your mind, be it malicious or not, is not something that people are really necessarily always open for. So, but I think that that is something, if I was to have a brand, I want to try and not to say, honest doesn't mean right. It means that that character, or whoever that character that you're writing, you try to portray the most honest opinion for that character that you can as a writer. I feel like that's what I want to do, is the idea of whatever I write, try to have it be as true to what that character would really be doing in real life as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've had so much television success, different ways, different levels. What is your superpower? What are you doing better than other people?
Oh man, I don't think I'm doing anything better than anyone else. I think I'm doing things different, and I might try to be the best that I can be. I'm really fortunate and blessed and lucky. I think that the thing that I will say, the thing that I do that I will try to tell everyone else to do, is I really believe in, like, give it your all. You know what I'm saying? The idea of, like, whatever you do, like, just really put all of you into it, and try to do it fearlessly. Try to sort of not let fear of failure. No, let fear of failure. Know that you can fail. I think that's really important. I'm always afraid of failing. And I'm so afraid of failing that it makes me, a lot of people are like, I believe in the positivity, and, what I'm saying, and going into it like, this is going to be a great day. I'm like, this day's probably going to be fucked up. So for me, I'm going to try, if I go into it knowing that I'm going to try and do everything I can to not have a fucked up day. You know what I'm saying? If I'm like, more often than not, these shows fail. So I'm going to understand that, say, like, I'm going to try and do everything I can to try to make sure that this is more than often than not a losing venture. So I'm going to try to not lose, because I know that it's a better than average chance that I am. So I'm really just like literally go into it and put all your, don't rest on your laurels. Don't, accept all the criticism. Get a crew of people that you really trust, that you disagree with, that will call you on your shit that you'll disagree with. If you hear a note once, you can ignore it. If you hear it twice, you should think about it. If you hear it 3 times, you should take it.
So okay, for somebody given that these things are generally a losing proposition, for somebody who, like myself, who wants to create television, what is the advice? How do we do it?
Go tell everybody, everyone has an amazing story. Your story is amazing. I think that the first things that we do should probably be close to our stories, even if it's not a family show. It's not that. Like, I was listening to an interview. The guy who did what's the Clooney, Sandra Bullock movie, where they were like right on the atmosphere.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I
whatever.
know. I hated that movie.
Where he said something, he was like, and it wasn't the movie so much, it was what he said that stuck with me. He's like, I've never been to space, so I can't tell you about space. He's like, but I have been in love and I have experienced loss. And so he told his story through that. And I was like, that resonated with me. So the idea of like just being honest with know that, I'm saying your daughter right now at the age she is has an amazing story. And if she's able to, I think the key to all this shit is stepping outside of yourself and seeing yourself. And that's hard sometimes because you might be like, man, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? But stepping outside yourself and seeing yourself and say, how do I tell the story of me to other people? I think that's the thing that everyone needs to, people getting into this, business, like those first things, tell a version of your story somewhere. Doesn't have to be your exact thing, whatever, but be honest and authentic because that's the story you can tell best. There's no story you can tell better.